Halala basadi halala. Indeed, gathered here today, women united in moving South Africa forward. Reboni, the empowerment of women, this is what you are doing for this country. It is good to be in South Africa. It's good to remember South Africa. The young women are going to be entrepreneurs. Now I'm going to take this opportunity. This is the time. I'm going to ask our Minister Mthethwa, ari tsebisa sebui sa rona sa letsatsi. Minister Mthethwa.
Thank you, Program Directors, Minister Susan Shabangu, Minister in the Presidency responsible for Women Affairs, His Excellency the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, President Zuma, and Deputy President Ramaphosa, Premier of the Free State, and Premier Ace Magashule, and the Premier of North and Northwest, Premier Supra Mahumapelo, ministers and deputy ministers here present, the newly elected leadership of the ruling party's Women's League, led by Minister Bathabile Dlamini, Mayor of Metsimahulu, Mayor Mahlaku, ladies and gentlemen. Happy birthday or happy Women's Day. Happy Women's Day. It's your day, it's like your birthday, the same thing. Happy Women's Day. I'm asked to introduce the keynote speaker for today, the President of the Republic of South Africa, in a South Africa which is free and democratic. A South Africa which is better to live in since our democracy in 1994. We say thank you to the women of our land, the gallant fighters who made their contribution to ensure that we reach 1994. Igama lamakhosikazi Malibongwe. We are today launching the 60th anniversary of the March of 1956. But we are also reflecting on the role women played to land us where we are today in our democracy. On this important day, we have to remember the contribution by the women of Free State in 1913. We need to remember them by name who influenced our leaders of our veterans like Ma'am Sophie the Brain with us here today. We speak of people like Ma Charlotte Maxeke, Ma Gabashane, Ma Kotsi, Ma Low, who made their contribution to ensure that we have 1956. But the women of this country are grateful to the sterling leadership of our president and the governing party. It is this governing party under the leadership of President Zuma who made it a point that our country has a sense of direction. We know our vision as a country today and the majority of people in this country embrace Vision 2030 of the National Development Plan. It is that vision which is going to break the back of unemployment, of poverty, of inequality. It is that vision which is going to ensure that the program of radical economic transformation is realized. And that program, for that program to be realized, our economy must grow. And for it to grow, we have to follow the lead of President Zuma in the 9-point plan of changing the face of our economy in this country. It is under President Zuma that we as South Africa understand ourselves very well as an integral part of our continent. It is under his leadership that Vision 2063 is going to be realized in Africa. It is under President Zuma that we are going to be able to ensure that our mothers, our sisters, our girls in this country live in a free, democratic South Africa where they benefit out of this freedom. It is against that background that you saw young women here being promoted, being given certificates to participate in the economic development of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, join me to welcome to the stage President Jacob Mhlanganyelwa Gedleyihlekisa Zuma, uMaphumephethe, umsholozi Ncamalala.
Dulang fast in that. Thank you, directors of the program. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Premier of the Free State Province, Ndate Ace Magashule, and other premiers who are here with us, the Minister in the Presidency for Women, the Minister of Arts and Culture, all ministers and premiers, deputy ministers, MECs, executive mayors, and councillors. The brand new president of the ANC Women's League, Bathabile Dlamini, and the top 5 of the Women's League. Leadership of the ANC Women's League, and indeed, all women's organizations present here. Women veterans of the liberation struggle, led by our veteran here, Sophie Brain. Traditional leaders, religious leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, the community at large, fellow South Africans, Dumelang, Molweni, Goeiedag, Sanbonani, Abusheni, Rimashoroni, Malibongwe. Igama lamakhosikazi. Today, we mark 20 years since our country began celebrating National Women's Day on the 9th of August. This year, we mark 59 years since that march under the theme, Women United in Moving Women's Agenda Forward. We declared the year 2015 as the year of the Freedom Charter and Unity in Action to advance economic freedom. The focus of Women's Day 2015 is thus the economic empowerment of women. It is for this reason that we are releasing the report on the status of women in South Africa, economically speaking, the South Africa of today. Compatriots, National Women's Day provides an opportunity to track the progress made in the advancement of women and improving the quality of life of all women in our country, especially the poor and the working class. This day was designated to celebrate the gallant contribution of South African women to the struggle for liberation and the attainment of the democracy and the better life we enjoy in our country since the fall of apartheid colonialism. The origin of National Women's Day is that historic 1956 Women's March to the Union buildings. The strides we have made as a country are attributable to endless sacrifices and the courageous spirit displayed by historic stalwarts who paved the way. We are aware that there is still much more to be done to improve the lives of all women in our country, but substantial progress has been made. In celebrating that, we have come this far. We pay tribute to the stalwarts of our struggle. Charlotte Maxeke, Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, Dorothy Nyembe, Albertina Sisulu, Ruth Mompati, Betha Kohwa, Florence Mkize, Florence Muposho, Gertrude Chope, Sister Bernard Ngube, Winnie Matikizela Mandela, Sophie Williams de Bruyn, with whom we proudly share this occasion and many others. These patriots are an embodiment of 102 years of a relentless forward march to total emancipation, land rights, equality, justice, and democracy. Unarmed and defenseless, women challenged the might and brutality of successive oppressive regimes in order to ensure that future generations live in South Africa that truly belongs to all. Their sacrifices remind us that our freedom came about through blood, sweat, and tears. We also pay tribute to thousands of women, those names we may never know, who suffered and fought for the freedom we enjoy today. I will mention just a few. In March 1912, a petition signed by some 5,000 women in the Free State was sent to the whites-only regime Prime Minister Louis Botha, asking for the repeal of the past laws. On the 23rd September 1913, Charlotte Maxeke led a women's march in the then Orange Free State, now Free State, and burned passes in front of municipal offices. In October of the same year, Transvaal Indian women began defiance activities by hawking without licenses in Vereeniging. They crossed the Natal border and encouraged the Indian and black coal mine workers in Newcastle to strike. In 1918, women campaigned against beer halls, forcing many to close. The anti-beer campaign gained momentum years later in Kettleman or Durban in 1959, led by Mary Tipe and Dorothy Nyembe. In 1918, Charlotte Maxeke started the first formal women's organization, the Bantu Women's League of the South African Native National Congress. This was the precursor to the ANC Women's League. In 1954, the non-racial Federation of South African Women was established, which brought together women from the ANC, the South African Indian Congress, trade unions, and self-help groups for the first time. And then on the 9th August, 1956, FESTO organized some 20,000 women to the seat of government, the Union buildings in Pretoria, to present a petition against the carrying of passes by women to the Prime Minister then, the A.G. Stradom. The bravery of the women proved correct, the saying that women hold the knife on the sharp side when threatened. Musadi uswara tipa kabuhaling. They told Stradom, watinda bafazi wathinta imbokodo uzokufa. When you strike women, you strike the rock, you will be perished or you will die. This historic march will forever remain earthed in the chronicles of the history of our country as a major demonstration by women of their determination to crush apartheid colonialism. The struggle continued. In 1957, women in Zerast revolted against passes in the villages of Dinogana, Lekopung, and Muswedi. They refused to collect their passbooks from mobile units. We also salute the women of Khopane village in Zerast, who organized a march against pass laws also in 1957. Much earlier than that, women had already been playing a visible role in affairs of many clans. We can count women, matriarchs like Mantantisi of the Batlokwa, Nkabai Kachama of Amazulu, and Matsopa of the Basotho. Indeed, South African women gave their time and commitment to the liberation movement, often at a great personal cost, without any exception of position, without any expectation of position or reward. We pay tribute to all the women of the Republic of South Africa who suffered so that the country could be free from the shackles of apartheid colonialism. Fellow South Africans, lest we forget, the Freedom Charter, whose 60th anniversary we celebrate this year, was preceded by the 1954 Women's Charter. This is a clear indication that women were in their own right among the pioneers in the struggle for our liberation. The Freedom Charter of 1955, together with the Women's Charter, which informed the development of the and influenced the 1994 Women's Charter for effective equality, influenced and anchored the fundamentals of the 1996 Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. The Women's Charter called for the right to vote and be elected to all state bodies, equal pay for equal work, equal rights in relation to property, land rights, marriage, and children, and the removal of all laws and customs that denied women such equality, among others. A second charter was drawn up through the National Women's Coalition structures and was approved at the National Conference on the 27th February 1994. All all South Africans voted as equals before the law for the first time in the historic general elections of 27 April 1994, thus bringing to a close decades of struggle. It has been quite a journey in our struggle. Compatriots, harsh, repressive laws, entrenching white privilege suppressed women in many ways. To this day, black women in particular still suffer from that legacy. We have learned a good lesson from the struggle for liberation that was led by the African National Congress. That lesson is that without women working side by side with men, it would take longer to become the prosperous nation envisaged by the preamble of our Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996. Also, if we are to succeed economically as a country, women must participate at both the micro and macro levels of the economy. They must not be relegated to micro operations and the informal economy, as has been the case. Economic freedom for women is imperative. Hence, the various laws we are putting in place to make the socio-economic development of women possible. Since 1994, government reviewed and developed laws to promote the rights of women. Significant progress has been made in areas such as legal status, attitudes, women's involvement in decision-making, especially at the political level, in employment, education, ownership of homes and businesses, the justice system, and economic participation. Women representation in the National Assembly moved from a mere 2.7% pre-1994 to the current 41%. More importantly, women lead the country in parliament, with both the Speaker and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces being women. The representation of women in cabinet following the 1994 general election stands at 43%, with deputy ministers at 45.9%. The local government level is showing steady progress in the representation of women. Following the 2011 local government elections, the representation of women on local government councils is at 38.4% compared to 28.2% in 2000. Women constitute about 33% of all the judges in our judiciary. The judiciary had 2 white women in 1994. Now, in democracy, there are 61 women judges, of which 48 are black women. Furthermore, we have 2 women judge presidents and a woman deputy judge president. Women constitute about 41% of the total magistrates. Women are also represented in the Judicial Service Commission and the Magistrates Commission. Women make up almost 40% of the senior management service in the public service. Diplomatic appointments of women have also equally increased dramatically. In 2001, only 8 women, constituting 17.4% of the total number, were serving as heads of missions abroad. As of last year, women accounted for 29% of appointed ambassadors, high commissioners, and consuls generals. In the private sector, the Employment Equity Report indicates that in 2014, women still accounted for only 21% of top executive management positions and 32% of all senior management positions. Women appear to be stuck at both middle and junior management levels, where they account for 45% and 43% respectively. It would also be good to have more women serving on the boards of directors of corporate South Africa, where decisions are taken about the direction of companies. There is still a lot room for improvement in both the public and private sectors towards equality, but progress made thus far is commendable. Compatriots, the Employment Equity Commission indicates that in spite of all the efforts, remnants of unfair discrimination still persist in a number of areas in our country, especially in the labor market. Women are discriminated against on the basis of pregnancy or marital status. They are also subjected to inequality with regards to salaries, especially in the private sector. The prevalence of sexual harassment in the workplace also hinders the advancement of women. These must be addressed, as all citizens are entitled to equal treatment, dignity, and respect. We also keep track of the progress made by our youth, especially young women, who also need to enjoy the dividend of freedom. During Youth Month, we showcased young women who are engineers, electricians, plumbers, and business women. We also introduced young people who are excelling in energy, defense, business, aviation, as well as science and technology. This demonstrates that we are making steady progress in education. The future indeed looks bright as we have 99% of children aged 7 and 15 years attending school. We thank South African parents for this achievement in promoting compulsory education. The attendance figures for our mass adult literacy program, Let Us Learn, also reaches a large number of women. The report of the Commission on Higher Education reveals that overall, women are more successful in their studies. For an example, in 2007, 59% of graduates were women, although only 55.5% of all enrolled students were women. At the universities of technology, 55 of graduates were women, compared with 51 of enrollments. In the comprehensive universities, 62% of graduates were women, while women made up only 57% of enrollments. And at the universities, 59% of graduates were women, compared to 56 of enrollments. Our fight against HIV and AIDS has been among the important interventions that have improved the lives of our people. The United Nations AIDS Agency released on the 14th July 2015 a report entitled How AIDS Has Changed Everything, meeting the MDG targets. The UNAIDS said the world has met and succeeded the AIDS targets of Millennium Development Goal, Millennium Development Goal 6, and was on track to end the AIDS epidemic by 2030 as part of the Sustainable Development Goals. The organization further declared that the goal of 15 million people on life-saving HIV treatment by 2015 has been met and exceeded 9 months ahead of schedule. More importantly, the report counted South Africa as one of the countries that has made significant strides in halting and reversing the epidemic. The report announced that South Africa has turned around its decline in life expectancy within 10 years, rising from 51 years in 2005 to 61 years by the end of 2014, on the back of a massive increase in access to antiretroviral therapy. South Africa is also listed in the group of countries that have reduced the number of new HIV infections by at least 20%. In addition, of the 20 million people globally on HIV treatment, more than 3.4 million are in South Africa. This is a dramatic achievement given that our country had been counted as a country that was facing enormous difficulties on this matter just a few years ago. The report further announced that deaths associated with HIV and AIDS in South Africa have significantly declined by 58% since 2010, and that life expectancy has increased from 52 years in 2005 to 61 years in 2014. Indeed, our people are living longer, and many are now able to work and live healthy lives due to the availability of treatment. However, these wonderful results, as announced in the report, should not blind us into complacency. The fight against HIV and AIDS continues. The fight against the stigma and the support for all infected and affected by the virus should also continue. Siyajabula kakhulu ukuthi izwe lethu linconywe inhlangano yezizwe ngendlela esiqhuba ngalo uhlelo lokulwa nesifo sengculazi. Abantu abaningi sebephila kangcono manje. Noma bephila negciwane, ngoba lo hulumeni kaKhongolose ubanika amaphilisi aleli gciwane elaliqeda abantu kule minyaka edlule. Izingane zomama abanegciwane sezizalwa zingenalo igciwane eziningi, ngoba omama abazithwele banikwa imishanguzo esindisa impilo yezingane. Impilo isingcono kakhulu impela manje. Usizi lomingcwabo ngezimpela sonto zonke ngenxa yegciwane seluphelile. Bayaphila abantu abasebenzisa amaphilisi aphuma kulo hulumeni. Uzoqhubeka uhulumeni ukwenza impilo ibe ngcono emikhakheni yonke yempilo yabantu. Work also continues to improve patient care at our hospitals and clinics to ensure better services for women and children. Fellow South Africans, in June this year, our country hosted a very successful summit of the African Union under the theme Women Empowerment and Development Towards Agenda 2063. Among many highlights, the summit launched a major drive to support women in agriculture. The chairperson of the AU Commission gave each head of state and government a tiller as a symbol of the need to provide women access to modern technology, land, credit, and extension services in order to empower women in agriculture and agro-industry. The AU intervention is in line with our own programs of promoting women in agriculture. Government runs programs such as Fesatlala and provides women with needs and implements to assist with food production towards food security. Siyabahalalisela omama abalimayo abaxosha indlala emakhaya. Uhulumeni uzoqhubeka nohlelo lokubasiza ngezinsiza zokulima njengembewu, ogandaganda nokunye. While counting achievements, we also emphasize that the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality remain a stark reality, and women are most affected. But we also note the positive impact the provision of a social wage package has had in reducing poverty in the country. Social wage refers to services provided by government such as free primary health care, no fee paying schools, social grants, most notably old age pensions and child support grants, the RDP housing, and the provision of basic services to households, namely water, electricity, and sanitation. Through these services, government cushions the poor from poverty and destitute. These continue to be among the most effective poverty alleviation mechanisms of the democratic government. They will continue to be so given the difficult global economic situation. Our own economy is still not growing enough to create more jobs. We are therefore concerned about the talk of massive job cuts in the mining and steel sectors. While understanding the economic pressure that some sectors are facing, we urge business to contain the difficulties as much as possible and not to resort to retrenchments at the first available opportunity. The retrenchments would have a devastating impact on scores of families and communities and will seriously affect the social fabric of society in many ways. We trust that business and labor will engage fruitfully in this matter. Government stands ready to support and assist wherever possible. Deputy President, compatriots and friends, I'm truly pleased to launch and release the report on the status of women in the South African economy today. The report identifies some of the areas where society has broadly been successful in enabling women's full participation in the economy, and others where there is a need for refocused efforts. It will assist us in taking stock and to improve the interventions further. The march towards social and economic freedom for women continues. The democratic government will be part of that march until victory is attained. Happy Women's Day to you all. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Thank you very much.
Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Halala Jacob Zuma, halala. I'm standing with the president here. Last year, when we were in Durban celebrating the 58th anniversary of the Women's Month, the president mandated us to produce a report on the status of women in South Africa. So I want today to say, President, the mandate you gave us to say you want to launch a report this year. We've got the report, we want to hand it over to you as the Department of Women in the Presidency. I'm handing over the report to the President as the mandate he gave us last year.
Non-story report. Thank you.
We have kept our promise, and I want to say to those who'd like to get a copy, it is on our website. The website is www.women.gov.za. We have delivered on the promise. This is our first report. Every year annually, we'll be reflecting on progress and challenges we are facing. Next year, there'll be a second edition. So we have delivered, President, the report as we had promised. But let's take this moment to thank our President for the guidance at all times. Siyabonga Mongameli ukuba usikhokhele ngaso sonke isikhathi. Kamotsotso o ke tla bitsa Mayor wa rona Ntate Brutus Matlaku a khone gore a tlo re lebogela.
Program Director, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, our Premier in the Free State, Esma Rashule, the Hlasela leader, the Premier of Northwest, Comma Supra, all ministers and deputy ministers, all members of the NEC, the brand new from the box President of the Women's League, Comrade Batabile, and the Deputy President Mantombela,